It is now, yeah. Good evening. Can I say a warm welcome from Table Tennis Scotland? Gordon Fearn is multi-qualified in a dozen sports. Fortunately, it is table tennis that Gordon has truly excelled. From the streets of Clifton in Nottingham, he became the youngest English table tennis coach at the age of 18. That was the start of a glittering and ongoing coaching career where he has become the East Midland Table Tennis Coach of the Year. He became Children's Coach of the Year and twice Nottinghamshire's Coach of the Year, which includes all sports. Fearn is a specialist one-to-one coach where he has guided many players to full potential. Notably, England players Emma Vickers, Georgina Walker, John Holland and wheelchair gold medalist James Lawson. Emma and Georgina have both been under 21 national champions, and Emma has also been the England #1. His coaching videos are quite superb, and that's what we'll be discussing tonight. So welcome, Gordon. How you doing, mate?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. Really pleased to be here. Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it. Good.
Okay, and also co-hosting tonight is Scottish International. She's a regular Monday nighter, although she's been busy with her exams, and that is Amelia Norbury, who's played in European Championships and has represented Scotland at cadet and junior level. Right, birthday time. Peter Hurst, national coach. It's his birthday tomorrow. So wow. Happy birthday, Pete.
Happy birthday,
hope you have a good day. Gordon, have you got any birthdays today?
I believe it's Amelia's birthday.
Is it? When's that?
18. Oh, that's the rumour I've been told.
Wow.
Wow, 18.
Is that right? Wow. Happy birthday to Amelia for Wednesday. Good on you, 18. Right. Gordon, just before we get into the show, you've just been appointed by Table Tennis England as a mentor. Can you tell us what that role includes?
Yeah, it's just there's been 4 mentors, Dave. Nat Green, Steve Gertson, who many of you know well, myself and Paul Whiting. Just really experienced coaches who's probably done a little bit in terms of the table tennis. They're looking probably at me around fundamentals of movement as well. So anybody who's interested in movement patterns for table tennis or fundamentals of movement, but also any table tennis really. I was a mentor on the Nottinghamshire County Council talented programme as well. So I mentored a lot of coaches in different sports on that programme. So when I got asked to do it, I was very honoured, and a lot of the guys knew what I was doing with mentoring. So I've mentored a few coaches over the years.
Brilliant. Okay then, Gordon, you played a lot of sports. Where did it all begin? Table tennis.
Well, yeah, table tennis, Nottingham, Dave, where you know what well. I was actually not that interested, really, as a 13. I was 13 when I started, wasn't really interested in doing much, just playing football mainly in the playground and stuff like that. And then Nicky Kirtland, my next door neighbour, was a table tennis player you know well. And Nicky suggested I go to table tennis. I reluctantly went, really, a little bit, along with my brother Brian. And we went to your coaching lessons at Ruddington. So we used to run there and run back. Brian, probably a bit more talented than me. Definitely 2 years younger, but he could definitely play. And I just kind of hit the bug, really, as I started getting a little bit better. Started playing a little bit better, and I actually managed to beat Brian in a semi-final. That gave me a bit of confidence. But I played lots of other sports, but I like the one-to-one with table tennis, really. That I used to like trying to pit my wits against other players, really. So that's why mainly table tennis.
Yeah. Okay, who were your early influences?
Well, obviously yourself, yeah. Pete Hurst, you just mentioned the birthday. Hurst was very much an influence. I did actually some work with Pete for about a year on a program. Learned a lot of technical things from Pete, from yourself, obviously, all the patience and that, and the stuff we did at Stanford, all around that. So there was, I think when I started, there was 4 national coaches. So I learned a lot from those guys, like the likes of Pete Simpson and that type of thing. Going on a lot of courses. So yeah, yourself mainly as an early influence, yeah.
Okay, and then you obviously, you rose up the table tennis ladder. I think you and Ben Green won the Nottingham doubles, didn't you? Am I right in saying?
Yeah, we won. Yeah, Ben. Yeah. We're still mates. Yeah, we won the Nottingham doubles as juniors. We won the men's title.
Yeah.
I think my coaching kind of came from that, because Ben, again, another talented lad. I kind of just said, as we was playing doubles, I more or less said to him, do this, do that sort of thing, and let him do it all, really. I was just more on tactics. So yeah, Ben, good player, good friend.
Yeah. And then obviously at the very young age of 18, you took up coaching and you became England's youngest coach at the time. So that was pretty early.
Yeah, I always felt, Dave, that I wanted to be a coach. Always had this instinct. I was doing sort of superstars in the back of the playground and that for my brothers and that. And my other brother, Robert, who's 7 years younger. So all his mates, I was sort of bringing this superstars. But I always wanted to be a coach, which I find quite unusual, really. I probably knew as a player I would only get so far, but coaching really was a real bug for me, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, coaching hit me early on, really, and then the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it.
Yeah. One of the many things that distinguishes you from the run-of-the-mill coaches, and I don't say that lightly, because every coach has an important coach, are your one-to-ones, which we'll probably touch on later. But these coaching videos, which we're going to look at soon, and you've done quite a lot, haven't you? Not just the one we're going to analyse today. You've made a lot of coaching videos, Gordon. You must be one of the...
Yeah. No, I tend to obviously I went self-employed a few years ago. So as a multi-skills coach, but table tennis coach as well. And I think just getting the publicity out there sometimes. Like I say, when I was coaching Georgina, who was a really good player as well. I mean, Georgina was 4 times national champion as well at under 21, and Emma. And there's people like Nick White in that. I kind of had a profile, and I know that I don't like that word, a profile, but when you're self-employed and trying to promote yourself, I think the videos are a way of getting a little bit of a profile. I just think, especially with something like lockdown, I think the videos are good for people to actually look at and share. And I think people can learn a lot from videos, and I obviously do from other people's videos as well. So I'll hop into them and have a look. Yeah.
Well, I think that leads us nicely onto the wings to fly, but I'm going to hand over to... Have you got a question for Gordon before we go on to the first part of the video, Amelia? Anything you'd like to ask him?
Just based on what you just talked about there, kind of where did you get did you have a really good kind of coach when you were younger in any of the sports that made you think that's kind of the career path I want to take, or was it just you enjoyed?
Dave himself was actually a big influence on me as a coach. To be fair, Dave was he'd invest in you. So he'd invest in time with you, which I really liked, and I wanted to do that with other players. So, yeah, Dave was a massive influence on me as a coach. And like I say, probably Pete, when I started working with Pete, he was different to Dave. So it was like having a look at different areas. And I think it was all... I'd always wanted to coach, but I think in terms I eventually built up my own way of coaching, but I definitely took influences off Dave and Pete. And You know, people like John Wooden, the basketball coach. I read a lot about of autobiographies, and John Wooden, just you know, some of the things that he did that astounded me were, oh yeah, that's so simple. So yeah, maybe them guys really.
Right, I'm going to bring, what I'd like to do is look at the first part of Wings to Fly. And if this coach is watching, and I know this coach is watching, what I liked about this first part, Gordon, is you didn't just dictate to Emma. You didn't say, this is what we're going to do, you do this. You wanted to know how she felt. You wanted this synergy between the two of you, but let's watch it first, and then we'll take some questions.
Okay, yeah. Fine.
Are we ready, Matt? Part one.
Director and BBC Sports Personality Coach of the Year always talks about his own and his team's unwavering desire to make marginal gains. Now, part of this, he says, is the constant need to look outside of his own sport for answers which may help their core business. Now, Wings to Fly has always had one eye on other sports, looking for the 1%ers which may help cricket coaching. We've explored tennis, hockey, golf and athletics, to name a few. Now, we saw Gordon Fearn working on catching with some very young children earlier, but it so happens that Gordon is also a top-level table tennis coach, so he asked if we could see him work with a player, and lobbed at him the "what does good look like" question in relation to table tennis and how that sport approaches the development of technique. Well, here's Gordon with British junior champion Emma Vickers.
You can just feel when it's right. It's not about always what it looks like, it's what it feels like for you. You just know when it's good because everything sort of happens right.
She'll probably have a feel of what it's going to be. I need to see that it's going to look pretty good with the technique. And the technique can change slightly, but what are the movement principles? What's the follow through? What's the recovery? Where's the feet? Because also with Emma, she does tend to sometimes rock on her heels where I want her on the balls of her feet and her head position. So I've got an idea in my head, but I don't always want to tell her. I ask, what's that feel like? And then I'll try and put it together what it should look like. Because sometimes I don't want too much coaching to go off. I want it to just happen quite naturally.
So how's it been going in terms of working on the power?
No, it's going really well. I mean, I didn't play as well as I wanted to, but I think that's just from a lot of practice. Like before I was training a lot of uni, but now because I've been coaching as well, it's difficult to fit it all in.
Because we've been working on that movement, we've been working on the power, that's what we'll look at. How else in the games, what was the serves like we've been working on?
Yeah, obviously I've been practicing that new reverse serve, so that was going all right. I was doing that in my match.
Was you doing that under pressure against better players?
Yeah, I was trying to fit that in as much as possible.
Okay, great. Is there anything today that you think you want to work on?
I think just still with the movement wide to the forehand.
Right.
Obviously I'm getting there a lot better than I used to, but sometimes it's not as strong a shot as it could be.
And don't forget, it's all about footwork and your shape, staying relaxed.
I wanted to learn, I'm not always going to be there. I think it goes back to their session again. What is it they want from that session? What are they going to take away from it? What am I going to take away from that session as well? So let it flow, let them learn.
He's good at understanding what's important for you as a player. He wants to help you achieve that. Because he coaches a lot of different standards of players, he really wants to know what each player wants.
Excellent, right. So it's that pre-coaching, it was so important where Gordon is drawing the information out of Emma. And as I say, I sometimes think we don't do enough of it. He wanted to know what her thought process was. What was going through your mind, Gordon, then?
Obviously, I coached Emma for a while there. I mean, we'd sort of been through the national under-21s together quite a lot. We're a team. And I wanted her to have ownership of her session. And I want to try and give players ownership from as early as possible, really. So, yeah, that's what's going through my mind. She knew what she wanted, which was good. The communication was always important. But for me, it's like I said in that video, it's Emma's session. It's not mine. It's about her taking ownership and learning, really, of what it is she looks for and wants.
Yeah. Amelia?
Yeah, I think it's like that kind of point is something that I've definitely experienced throughout my whole coaching life as my coach. So Tom Hook has always been like it's your session, like you need to take ownership.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learned in the past couple of years, is that so he's given me a lot more responsibility, and kind of taking responsibility for your own training and things like that. I've learned that is, you can reap the rewards from that. So I became a better player by doing my own work on it, because you kind of want it more when you put the work in behind the scenes. You want to get the results more. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Any more questions at this stage, Amelia, or happy to go over to part 2?
Happy to.
So there we have that, the pre-session, the planning of the session, as I say, the synergy, which is one of the most important words in sport.
Can I just interrupt there, Dave, as well? I think it was important that the main important thing was, I was saying, I'm not always going to be there. The coach is not always they're not going to be there. So you've got to actually take that responsibility. And one of the things I see a lot in table tennis is specifically is players looking for the coach. You know, they're looking for the coach all the time. And that way they've got an excuse. You know, they can blame everybody. So it is that synergy and teamwork. I really believe if you're working definitely one-to-one, that you both take that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've spoke a number of times on these Zoomcasts is teaching players to be self-sufficient. If the coach doesn't need you anymore, you've done a very good job. If the coach is relying on you, so if the player is relying on the coach, then you know, there's got to be something missing. Because one thing, Gordon, which we've said again on a number of these Zoomcasts, is you go to an international tournament. I remember my first trip to Germany with Donald Parker, my first experience in international table tennis. There were 6 players on, 2 coaches. 4 players didn't have a coach. So that was an early lesson. That was at cadet level. That was an early lesson in self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to, so we've set the scene, Matt, and can we now look at the second part of the video?
What we'll do is we'll put a dead easy basic exercise in, what we've done before. We'll go middle, backhand, and wide to that forehand. Good play. Excellent, well done.
Number 4 in England at the moment. I've been as high as 3. Played for England since I was about 12. Won 3 under-21 national championship titles.
Good spin. I'm just going to vary the pace, Emma. Good shot.
Yep.
Come on. Just show me what your movement's like. Yeah? Okay. All right, fine. Not off your heels. No. What I would try and do is, as you're getting a push off here, is just try and get that chain that we talk about, because we've still got to try and get that power going. Yeah? Because you've got the speed, we just want that rotation and power a little bit more, and being able to change things, all right? Good. Well done. No rush, just get the feet there, keep it simple. Yeah, feet at the key. Okay, that was good, a bit more power for me.
If you're right-handed, it's all about pushing off your left leg. I think I used to just lack that power of pushing off, but now I'm gradually building the power.
Don't forget, it's not just the exercise, always play it. Good, well done. What do you feel about that one, Emma?
Leaned a bit too much.
Yeah, why? Was you shaved or wasn't you quite there? Was you a bit too early?
Well, my feet weren't in the right place.
Okay, okay. Happy with the backhand? You sure?
It was a bit better.
A little bit better, okay. Good. Just keep trying to do it, because we're going to put it into that game under a bit of pressure. We won't sieve it in at the moment, just keep it there. Wide one. Happy? Okay. How are you getting the power? What are you getting the power off?
Legs.
Legs, okay. If you start to feel comfortable, for a bit more speed, you can put a little bit of wrist into it as well. But again, don't forget, it depends on who you play.
Yeah.
So who are you playing? What are your tactics against that person? They might like pace, they might not. So it's being aware of that, yeah? So what I'll keep trying to do is that variation.
Yeah, so that was that session was basically a regular session.
Yeah.
Where Emma knew where the ball was going to. But again, Gordon, all the time you're drawing feedback from Emma, and obviously the two of you know each other so well. So the importance of knowing your player. So how did you sort of plan that particular session, the regular one?
To be honest, it's sort of not like you say, knowing your player and knowing what questions to ask. Because when you ask a question, it's no good asking a closed question that you're not going to get much out of. Emma was originally quite shy when I started coaching her. I couldn't really draw a lot out of her. So it was probably a little bit more just trying to drip feed that. So planning it once we got to know each other that well was basically, I wanted to, like I say, I wanted to learn. I don't want to dictate everything. I wanted to actually learn and sort of challenge me and challenge yourself a little bit. So it's like when she was saying about the wide one to the forehand, we both talked about that, but I sort of gave her a challenge of how you're going to do that, how you're going to get there. And we was looking at the feet, and I believe your technique starts from feet. So getting in position was important to Emma. But again, even though that was regular, Dave, we were changing the pace because Emma was good at one pace. So we changed the pace because she struggled a little bit when the pace is changed, where she was really good at a fast pace that she liked.
Yeah. But do you think that was because the fast pace, she didn't have to think? She could just rely on instinct, where if you change the pace, then
there's a little bit of that, Dave. Yeah, a little bit of she was good when she just played free, but it's hard, isn't it? Because tactically she needed to be aware as well. So yeah, she played better when she was just playing with freedom, really, sort of. But again, that's where the relationship is. Like we're again coaching. What is coaching? You know, are you a corner man, or you're coaching in a group, or you're coaching one-to-one, and it's everything really. So I think maybe in terms of like the national titles that she won, I think that definitely helped that somebody's in a corner. So it helped that I was in a corner to look at things. But I challenge her still, you know, even in those tournaments, saying I wouldn't always jump in first and sort of say, this is what you do. I'd say, what do you think? You know, just to prompt her, really.
Yeah. And also, obviously the important ingredients of movement are stop, start, accelerate, and change of direction. Yeah. And it was that change of direction, you know, pushing back, that you seem to be emphasising a lot there. That was a bit you didn't seem to be happy with. You was happy with her acceleration. You was happy with the way she started, but the change of direction, and it's on that video, you said it push. Was that a weakness with Emma, or was you just trying to draw the best? It
was an area she struggled with when I first started working with Emma. She struggled to actually. Emma was very reactive when I started working with her. She was very reactive, so it's all reactive. I wanted her to be proactive. I wanted her to be able to play a strong forward. She was a fantastic hand to eye here, so she'd block a lot where I needed something. She needed something more. So it was okay. Let's get proactive with it as well, so she could get that strong forehand in. So yeah, she struggled with it, and we worked off the table as well as on the table with that. So it wasn't just on the table as a physical conditioning, but also reactions and anticipation skills.
Yeah, and what the audience won't know is Emma's dad was a very, very competent table tennis player.
Yeah,
Derbyshire number one.
Yeah, good play, Phil.
A senior coach himself. Yet he handed over Emma to you rather than coach Emma himself.
Yeah, I mean, he did, and I believe like in a coaching chain personally. So I've handed players over. You know, if a player's not getting the right amount of practice partners with me, go to somebody else, you know.
Yeah.
And Phil was very good at that. And it's again this parent situation, isn't it? It's very difficult for him because Emma was playing and he'd be all over the place, and the pressure that probably he put on her, not deliberately, but it affected Emma. So that's why Phil probably passed on, you know, just to take that pressure off her a little bit, because it was difficult. He you know, like any parent, he wants the best for his child, really. So yeah, that was a really, you know, tough decision for him. But I think it would, you know, it turned out a good decision, I think, because it took the pressure off the relationship. You know, and it's important not to sort of cloud the difference between parent and coach, really.
Yeah. And it wasn't Mum a table tennis player as well?
Jane was a good player. Jane tended to come quite a lot to the tournaments with me. And if I wasn't there, and again, that's Emma learning, but Jane would be in a corner as well. So, you know, it worked well. It worked well for Emma, I think. So Jane went, but Phil actually, you know, he missed a few of her actual titles because, you know, of the pressure that Emma would probably feel there. Yeah. She'd spot him a mile away, you know, if he came in, she'd spot him a mile away. Yeah.
I think Jill Parker, European champion, said on one of these Zoom casts she actually felt more pressure watching Katie play than when she was playing herself.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because Katie played against Georgina Walker, our coach. So there'd be a lot. So it's quite interesting because I cornered and Don was in the other corner. Yeah, and Don was quite relaxed, really, inwardly. I don't know what he was outwardly. Sorry, I don't know what he was like inwardly, but Don seemed to be quite relaxed. But it must have been hard, you know, to actually corner and coach and actually have a good perspective, really, because you're trying to get that player to be the best they can be, really, and you've got to realise that external pressure is not good if it's you know, if it shouldn't be there, really.
Yeah. I mean, we often say that the only opponent is your opponent.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a parent offering negative advice, and it shouldn't be the umpire it's your opponent. And if you're focusing on your parents, and if you're focusing on the umpire, then you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. Yeah. Right, Amelia, lots of stuff there.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff, actually. The only bit I would like kind of ask you about was you were just kind of mentioning kind of footwork and working away from the table. So just how important do you think it is to do work off the table as well as when you're on the table?
I'm a movement coach, so for me, it's key. Fundamentals of movement, and I kept saying going through the chain, and what I mean by that is that kinematic chain. So a lot of players will move well, but then stop power. So they'll get there, then just do this. And, you know, if you want the power, you've got to go through that kinematic chain. You've actually just got to go through it. And it's understanding that. So to me, definitely the footwork off the table and on the table, but make it relative to what you're trying to do. It's got to be relative to what you're doing and match play. It can't always just be aerobic stuff. It needs to be anaerobic as well. So it needs to be really, really quick and sharp. But it's having the understanding. And for me, I think I say in one of the videos about the wobble boards and the balance. And if a player understands the balance, that'll really help them. That'll really help get the power, but also the movement. I'm a believer that your technique starts from your feet. So a lot of players, when they've got a bat in their hand, will stick the bat out. Well, you can get the ball on the table, but can you really get the ball on the table how you want to? So I think as soon as you can get that movement pattern, the better. Irregular, regular, understanding. And like Dave says, the opponent you're playing. You've got to be able to, and Emma was reactive, but you've got to be able to think about your feet getting there. Yeah, feet first. Yeah, get your feet there.
Anything else, Amelia?
Not for me.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. Right. Tell us a bit about the wobble board.
The wobble boards, they like a cushion, Dave. So they're a cushion where, again, they're fantastic tools. So you could stand on a wobble board or on two. So where you stand, it flips you back if you haven't got a good balance. but also you can work your core, so it's a strength one. It's basically a physio tool that they used to have. And again, it's just I've got players playing on a wobble board, so it keeps the head forward. So they're not going to move the feet, but they're going to be aware of the balance and their own stance. And again, what you've got to be realising, some players will go through growth spurts. So all of a sudden, their stance might adjust. So it might be, I'm going a bit wider now. So the wobble board's a really good tester of that. So if you get 2 wobble boards and just put one, and get them to feel where the stance is, it will test the balance, get the head forward instead of falling back and off the heels. So they're a great tool, but you can do strength work with them as well as balance.
And use them for other sports apart from table tennis?
Yeah, I use them for all the sports. The rugby guys have them, the athletics guys. I've been lucky enough to work with a guy called Richard Whitehead. Some of you might know of Richard Whitehead. Yeah. Richard's, I do part of his team, so I was working on starts and getting Richard to start thinking outside the box, because he says, I want to think outside the box. So he's been on wobble boards, a Paralympian, so world champion, great, unbelievable athlete. But he's been on the wobble boards testing his balance on prosthetic legs. So straight away, that's a real challenge, Is
something you've tried, Amelia, a wobble board? No.
No. Try one.
You're on mute, Amelia. You're on mute.
No, it's not.
Have you tried a wobble board?
I haven't, no. But I've seen a lot of people use them actually. I think a lot of the clubs down in England.
Okay, we'll have a word with Stephen Gertson, and we'll try and get some for you all to have a go at it.
I think for me, Dave, it's like anything. It's the why. So you're understanding. So the why. Why am I using a wobble board? Because like you said about videos, anybody can look at a video and you go, oh, that's great. But why would you use it? What are you going to use it for? So it's the understanding of why you use the wobble board. Yeah. So for Amelia, if she was using the wobble board, she could look at a stance, but then she could work on a strength and a core and that type of thing. So it's the understanding of why you're going to use equipment, really, or why you're not going to use equipment. I think a lot of people don't understand the why.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, Matt, are we ready to go on to, is it part 3?
With Emma, her technique should be grooved now, more or less. It's more on the footwork, what she's doing. If I was working with a beginner, then the technique would be more of a focus, because you need to really build a good technique so they can adapt and go forward.
What we'll do is we'll now put a little bit of anticipation into it, yeah? What anticipation do you want where you think it's going to stretch your whitey forehand?
Yeah, maybe the same one, but either 1 or 2 backhands.
So, middle, 1 or 2 backhands, then switch, okay? But don't forget, the emphasis is on that power, getting the consistency. Work it. Well done, excellent. Just be careful with yourself with setting, yeah? How much you set, but how much you move. Balls of feet. Well adapted. You weren't quite there, but you still adapted well. Just got to have serving as well, okay? Good, so. Excellent, well done. Well finished. It's looking good. At the moment we're working on a backhand, but we're going to now start to work different angle, forehand, okay? And you'll find this slightly different. So we're going to add it in and we're going to go middle, forehand, backhand. So think about the distance, think about the movement. What I want you to start doing occasionally, Emma, is just check where your feet are to see if you're in the right position. You're looking good. So I'm going to do it multi-ball, middle, wide forehand, backhand, wide forehand. Good. Remember, don't always have to come back here, that wide one, it's free ball. So anyway, think who you're going to be playing, who might be struggling, okay? Good, well done, on adapting. Just a bit more pressure, Emma.
The harder you work in practice, then the easier it is in matches. So it's important to work really hard during your practice, and then it becomes easier.
We're going multi-ball again, but we're going to put it in from backspin now. I want you to really start concentrating on that power off your flick. I'm going to play one out to your backhand, and then we'll test this wide forehand again. Excellent.
That's really good. What a lot of players do is look at that side of the table. If you can think about where you're going to put it on here, are you playing a left-hander, right-hander? The sooner they can work that technique in and where the tactics come in, know their strengths, know areas to improve, the better for me. What we'll start to have a look at now is your service and receive. Good. Oh, lucky. Oh, look, that's good. The idea was good. It's a good change, well done. Call it when you think you're into game time, but what we're going to do, we're going to condition it. So it might be 8-9, 9-8, you call that as well.
Yeah, sure.
It's a good play for me.
Well,
Thank you.
So there's a bit of multi-ball there, a little bit of random stuff. Do you want to just sort of run through that bit of the video with us, Gordon?
Yeah, it was just, as you could see, was trying to just look at the wide one again. And the multi, we're gradually trying to get down to more match play, more specific around playing matches, really. Of course, the whole session was really based about trying to get that power from forehand because she had developed a strength, and we wanted to get that strength in. So, yeah, the multi-ball, if you notice, I say don't just go in the same area. I think a lot of players, when they start doing multi-ball, and a lot of coaches want it to look good. It's not about looking good. It's about the why. So when she's doing multi-ball, I was trying to make her aware that she doesn't have to always from there, okay, I'm going to put it to a forehand, but she doesn't have to go back to the same place. She could go to other places. And if you notice, I'm saying about what players you're going to play, who you're going to play, where's it going to go to them? How can you hit a weakness? Yeah. So that was why, really. Yeah.
Okay. And Amelia, have we got a question there from Joan Smith from the Shetlands?
Yeah, we do. So she's asking, do you have any links to shadow work practices for movement?
I do. Yeah, Shadowplay, shadow work. Yeah, I kind of, if she goes on my YouTube, there's some stuff that not particularly shadow play, but lots of movement activities she can use. And again, it's thinking why, but I would basically do shadow play every warm up. Just get some shadow play there in your warm ups. So start without the bat in your hand, because I kind of do an exercise where I multi-ball, but take the bat out of somebody's hand and get them to catch. So they'll have to catch the ball in their playing hand. And the reason I do that is to get them to keep the space. So if I'm catching like this, and 9 times out of 10, if I catch, I have to take my feet and get my head in position. So that might be a good idea, just to try that with your players, is to get yourself moving and try and catch the ball. Because if you can get there and catch it, you can definitely get there and play it. And it stops you reaching with your bat as well. So that's a work one. But any shadow play that's going to replicate anything that's in a match, really. So I would just do that before I even play. So you get forehand to forehand. Well, forehand to forehand, it can be anywhere on the forehand. So even just shadow playing there and just trying to keep you space, really. Just trying to get the player to keep the space. Yeah. But any exercise that's regular, irregular, do it as shadow play first without the ball, then bang the ball. You need the ball in there because that's what's going to happen. But yeah, start any shadow play really as a warm up or cool down at the end. Always trying to get the feet buzzing, get them buzzing. But there's quite a few. Sorry, Dave. There's quite a few stuff on my YouTube, but different movement patterns that they might not realise that you can use for table tennis. Adapt them.
Yeah. Okay, there's a new one there for me, Gordon. Actually, that one where you drop the bat and whatever the ball is, you catch it.
Yeah. On your backhand, you got to be careful they don't turn the hand over. But your backhand, you can just get your body there. But
I guess you could even catch two hands on your backhand, couldn't you?
You could, but it's just trying to keep, because you can build like I said earlier, techniques from feet. And sometimes what I've learned over the years is not always to say move your feet, because move your feet, everybody goes, well, I know that. How do I do it? So I'll just say keep your space. So if I can say keep your space, 9 times out of 10, they'll know if their elbow's in too close, especially on the forehand. So I'll just say, keep your space. And they automatically move. And your head is so important for movement. If you leave your head behind, you're struggling. So if you can get your head there first, that helps with movement again. And it allows you to play the shot from all over.
Yeah, well, one of the basic things we always used to teach our coaches in good movement, apart from stop, start, acceleration, in good movement, the head moves first.
Yeah.
Followed by the nearest foot to the ball. So wherever you move, your head moves first. Now, I know obviously Joan's watching, but this catching, I wanted to sort of spend a bit more time with it. A lot of our listeners have got robots during lockdown.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better exercise if they're playing on the robots, just catch. They could drop it straight away then, couldn't they? And catch the next ball on the robot. Drop, they don't have to try and catch 50 balls in a robot. But so I think that would be a good robot exercise. Yeah,
definitely. Again, robots are good to a degree, but then they're not giving you the anticipation you need, the adaptation. So even if you've got somebody at the end of the table being able to put a short ball in, because most people reach a short ball, they don't take the leg under. And to catch it, you've got to take your leg under to be there. So, get it random as well. So get the multi-ball, definitely get the robot on and it'll help. But can you put a short one in? Can you put a long one in? Because the in and out movement, I think a lot of table tennis players lack. I think they're not and everybody says side to side. But what do you do when you're away from the table? What do you do when you're close up to the table? So you've got to replicate what's happening in games. You've got to, Yeah. But robot would be good, Dave. Yeah.
You learned that from Peter Hurst, didn't you? Because that's what he said. If you don't do it in a game, then don't do it in practice. Like
I say, Hursty taught me a lot. Yeah, I did all with Pete. Yeah, he's good fun as well. Yeah, as you know.
Amelia?
Yeah.
Anything on that?
The Shadowplay stuff's interesting. And like the catching, you can even do that if people don't have tables at home. Like I think I've done it a lot where people, they drop a ball in front of you, you drop out to your right or your left.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite a good method to use. And I remember doing one time, I think someone threw a ball from behind me.
Yeah.
To like kind of
that's right.
Anticipation and call. So it's really important.
That's good, Amelia. Yeah. There's a decent one of a guy called Max Stevens that I do some cone work with dropping a tennis ball, and he has to touch and then come on and react. Again, just be careful because sometimes they look down and you always want to be looking at your opponent. So it's, again, just knowing the why and being aware that, that's a great exercise, but how can I then transfer it? How can I transfer it across? Yeah, that sounds good to me there. Yeah,
good. Okay, any more, or shall we go on to it's part 4 now, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so, don't
you? Yeah, we're doing all right. We're well ahead of time. Good. Okay, then, Matt, I'm going to bring you back in for part 4.
Emma was quite shy, so trying to know the person was really patient, just getting to know her. Getting her to have a laugh, everything was quite serious. So just getting her to have that little bit of fun element with her, really.
It's important that in training it's not always monotonous, not always the same sort of thing. You need to do different things all the time. You need to try and incorporate a bit of fun into it and trying things that are a bit out of the box, that are a bit different. And I think he really wants to know you as a player and what you want to achieve.
You ready?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. Go on then, call a score. I should be winning, don't forget.
9-7.
To me?
Yeah.
Fantastic, great. Good call. Ooh, pressure, 7-10. Good score. 8-10.
With practice, it's always good to do a lot of movement stuff and a lot of technical stuff, but what's really important is match play. Especially before big tournaments, you always want to make sure you're not doing too much movement, but you're doing a lot of stuff with service and receive, so it's a lot more realistic to matches.
Keep it alive. Yeah, hold on, 10 on. This point, the winner. No 2 clears. Oh, good, and that's bad. Okay, what we're going to do, we're just going to link it all into match play. I'm serving as well now. I'm going to try, and every so often, pin you down to your forehand wide. Every time you get to a wide, good forehand, and play it by me and I don't get a bat on it, it's 2 points for you. Emma's forehand's really developed now and she knows what she wants off that forehand, knows it's her strength, whereas she probably wasn't using that forehand as much. But she's developed, she's tried things out. She's tried the wobble boards, she's tried playing on the wobble board. And I don't think a lot of coaches, they do tend to be narrow-minded and think of this, but you can learn so much from others. I think the fundamentals was really key for me in trying to take that knowledge forward. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
Right, well
Yeah.
done.
Thank you.
So that was putting it all into a game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you was doing a lot of on-table coaching, even though it was it was coaching exercise, and you'd gone into match play. A number of times you stepped in to point out various points.
Yeah, just mainly little reminders to her, really, because I did what once she start playing in tournaments, I can't obviously do that until you sort of cornering. So within the practice, I would have left that alone as well. I don't always do that, but with that particular time, I just wanted to emphasise, because the whole session really was the forehand wide. Let's get in the forehand in. So there's a couple of times in there, maybe she could have got in a bit earlier with a forehand than she did, actually, because under pressure, Emma would push sometimes. You'd have to, and she needed to attack. So that was probably to emphasise a little bit. Yeah, you can get in, and giving her the 2 points if she got it by me. So I was trying to encourage her to actually think quite positive, because I was aware of her mindset, and I think it's important to work on that mindset with her. What her mindset is. I know if she were under pressure, she'd sometimes push, and sometimes she had an opportunity to attack. Yeah.
Interesting. Amelia?
Yeah, just on the match play part, like how much of a session do you think you should focus on match play, or is that just kind of, obviously that depends on where you are in your season and things like that as well?
Yeah, Amelia, I would say you're right. It's where you are in your season. It really is where you are in your season and what you're looking for. And I think it's making connections with your players. So it's their session, so it might be, see, to me, it's like a piece of cake. And if you go to a tournament and then you come back and you go, do you know what, my serves, I wasn't working on my serves. Let's put that in the session. Let's now take that into the session. Let's not be rigid with our session. So it is me understanding what Emma was wanting and the communication with all the players. So with some players, it might be they need more match play. Some players might like to, but Emma liked to work her way in. So she'd like to feel the ball and get consistent first. And that's why that session was more of a consistency, regular to get her tuned in. But another player, it might be like, right, let's get into a bit more match play. I think it's knowing who you're working with, really. And Emma to me was build her confidence up. She was a lot better player as soon as that confidence there. When I first started coaching her, she thought I was crazy. Like I said, honestly, she was really quiet. I started to do anything to get her to relax. So I was a bit crazy. So made her relax first, so then I could get information. Otherwise, there was no feedback coming. She'll probably kill me for saying that, but that's definitely. She thought I was crazy. It was crazy. Most people do so.
Yeah. And which would be interesting to Amelia and some of our other listeners is table tennis didn't stop her from in her studies, did it, Gordon? She's a doctor now,
Emma Vickers. Yeah, she's done. Emma, I think Emma's done fantastic. I mean, yeah, the studies, because again, fitting in with studies and trying to play table tennis, it's a really difficult commitment, especially, she kind of had to make a decision. We talked about that together. At the time she was doing really well, just on the fringes of playing. Well, she was playing for England women's, and it was like, I think she had the opportunity for Sheffield or university, and it's got to be down to your player what they want. And I don't think she's looked back on what she's doing. You know, she's done fantastic with her education. And Georgina was exactly the same. She came to a crossroads and decided to go to uni. And it's always about the player, Dave, isn't it? It's always about, you know, what it is they actually want at the end of the day. Because it's tough. It's tough to be a top player. You know, it's really, really tough.
Yeah. On the question of Emma, were you coaching Emma through her university years, or did you lose? No, you didn't lose her then.
No, so Emma was coming to me. I actually was coaching at Trent Uni. I was quite lucky because when I was coaching there, we had the likes of Chris Duran and those types of guys, Alice Loveridge. I was coaching at Trent, so I had a lot of good players. But I was still coaching Emma one-to-one. It was more difficult. And again, you become more of a sort of a sounding board, you know, and then get your practice, bit of a sounding board, come and see you. But then, eventually, like it's difficult, isn't it, to keep that going, especially as Emma's starting to, you know, have less time really. But yes, coached her through the university years. Yeah.
Amelia?
Yeah, kind of, it's an interesting point. It's something we've talked about a lot on the Zoomcast, is balancing studies with kind of table tennis in your career. So it's interesting.
Emma was very, very organised. Very organised. So she was good at putting her work in for her studies. That's probably why, you know, she's been so successful. She was very organised in that way of being able to combine the two as best as she could. Obviously, the table tennis kind of suffered a little bit, but we kind of made that decision. She still, I think, if I remember right, I'm sure she won a couple of under 21 titles when she was at university against people that were practicing her more full time than Emma. So we had to be smart. We had to be really smart in how we practice. And again, she had to go out and get the practice with other players. I mean, I wasn't good enough, so she had to go out with other players. I could get the ball on, but I couldn't put her under pressure. So again, that's that teamwork, being able to do that.
Finding a way. Whatever
definitely.
your situation is. Okay, so Emma's now doctor. She's now a doctor. Georgina, she became
Podiatrist.
England number one as well.
Georgina was number one. Emma was number three.
Sorry for the listeners. Georgina Walker. That's right.
Yeah, Georgina was one. Emma got to number three. Georgina 4 national under 21 titles. Emma 3 under 21s, basically straight after each other, more or less, with Joe Parker and Kelly Sibley in between, I think. So, like I say, Georgina, a really good player as well, made a decision to leave. So, Emma got to 3, Georgina. People like Nicola White got quite high up. John Holland got to top 10. You know, there's quite a few. Like I say, it's a privilege to coach these guys, and people like James Rawson in a wheelchair. It's just like an honour to coach someone like James, who came to me. I don't know how many Paralympics he'd been to, but he came to me to improve after he'd been to about 3 or 4. So, you know, he needed to attack a bit more. So we worked together, and I learned as much from James as hopefully he did from me.
Yeah. That's good. I just want to go back to Georgina. Was Georgina a different personality to Emma? Was it a completely different mode of coaching, or was it so similar it was just you were just cloning your technique?
No, there was different. There was different. There was similarities. I'd worked with Georgina since she was a beginner, so from 10. Phil, like you say, Phil had coached Emma till about 14, maybe 14, 15. So I then had to I understood earlier on Georgina because I'd worked with her from the word go. I had to learn how to work with Emma. I had to see what made her tick. Both very good under pressure. I felt I had to get to know Emma a little bit more because, again, she was quite shy, and Georgina probably knew me a bit better. But again, that's what it is, isn't it, Dave? Relationships, building those relationships in and getting to know your players. Yeah.
I think your first breakthrough as a coach, was it John Holland, really?
Yeah, John Clifton lad. Yeah, John, good lad. John was a hard worker. It's quite interesting because I coached John, a guy called Adrian Bolton, who was really high up, fantastic forehand, nice lad. And my brother, Robert, so he's 7 years younger. So we had 3 good players. And it was at a time when you had people like Matthew Side, Michael O'Driscoll, and they all did really, really well. But I think when I was a coach there, Dave, if I'm honest, I thought I was better than I was because I'd had success. I've had success, but it wasn't me, it was the players. So the best thing I did was have a 5-year break. I had a 5-year break at about 23, and I came back a better coach because I was more open. Because I think at 18, like you said, I was probably the youngest coach, but because the players were doing well, I thought I was at the bee's knees, and I wasn't. You know, it was like, I'll come back, have a think about what I'm doing. And from then, I think I've been really open to learning, and I feel I'm better, a lot better than I was when I was 18, 20, you know, a lot better. But John was a really good lad, left-hander, good serves. We worked on strengths, not areas of input. We did work on those, but we had a look at what they was good at, because I think that's important for the mindset and confidence.
Yeah. Amelia, anything else, or you?
I'm pretty much, I think we've covered a lot. It's been really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, now I just want to go back to James. So he came to you as a medalist. You know,
yes,
it wasn't a beginner.
James,
it wasn't. So where obviously Georgina you had from the beginning.
Yes. Yeah.
Emma in transition.
Yes.
Phil recognising she needed to be passed on to get this clear observation rather than as a parent. But James coming to you as an established player, how did you start with that? You've got a player who's already there.
Yeah. Just again, like I would with anybody, ask the questions of where they wanted to go, what he wanted to do, where he wanted to be. I've done a little bit of work with disability, and I obviously in the schools and I do a lot more. I've done a little bit of work, but I wouldn't, definitely not an expert. So it's getting to know James. What can you do, James? What can I challenge you to do that you don't think you can do? I know the first time I went to watch one of the sessions, everything was push, and they were saying, "Oh, that's what it's like." And I was going, "Well, why? You know, it doesn't have to be. If you've got a ball that you can top spin, why aren't you top spinning it?" And he was going, he started to open up to that. But I said when I first started working with James, let's work together and let's see how we go. And let's see if I get it wrong, tell me, you know. So it's a very open, honest relationship to start with. James had no core, so it's getting to really understand what he could and couldn't do. I remember once somebody says, "Oh, I thought James was a good player," and he had played another guy, Mark Palmer, in the English final, but Mark was a different class 3 and a class 5. So there was a difference there. Just because in a chair, people didn't understand that. But James used to move with his shoulders to get in position, because, like I say, his feet's not there, so his shoulders made the difference. And we did again work up what he was good at. And hopefully it was the communication, the connection and the communication. Is any player really? Just where do they want to be? Because I think if they say they want to be somewhere, you've got to challenge, well, this is what it's going to take. You know, are you prepared to do that? It's no good saying, "Oh, that," because that's it. You know, I was lucky enough to work with Bill Furness, who coached Rebecca Adlington for Nottingham. You know, Dave. And he says Rebecca, most people who are Olympians are freaks, because it's just like, you know, so it's tough. It's tough to get there. So, you know, so the players that made it to national, and anybody that's achieved the best, to me, has done what they can do within their circumstance. Not everybody's going to, you know, be an Olympic or world champion or national champion. But if you can, I think I achieved the best that I could as a player with what I got. You know, and I think that's all you can ask.
Okay, in terms of coaching, Gordon, it's a question I was asked on my session.
Right.
do you prefer to coach one-to-ones? Do you prefer to coach small groups? Do you prefer to coach large groups? Do you actually, does Gordon Fearn have a preference, or?
My body has a preference.
Yeah.
I'm starting to concat doing the one-to-ones. So my body definitely has a preference. No, I just love coaching, Dave. I'm passionate about coaching. I've coached ladies football teams. I've coached a guy that's not Peter Battle before. I've coached, been lucky enough to coach national champions and Paralympians. I just love coaching. I'd like to maybe get a club and just a philosophy of where I go, but getting that chain again, that coaching chain, that's so vital that I think it's like sort of missed out a little bit. We need a coaching chain. So I think I've heard you on some of you need to pass people on. You need to be aware. You need to pass. But we've got some fantastic coaches who coach with beginners, and I don't think sometimes they're recognised. I was lucky when I started my coaching journey that I had the likes of you guys, because we learned how to break skills down. I think I remember coming to Reading. Was it Reading you was at?
Yeah.
And I had 2 weeks with you. And that was a great education, because I thought, national coach, you're going to be working with all the top. But you did, in those days, it was proper coaching where you did a lot of different things. You'd go into like a leisure centre, you'd do tutoring to coaches and that type of thing. And that to me, was what coaching's about. Just backing people be the best they can be. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true.
Yeah. No. And how many coaching videos have you done, Gordon?
Come on. Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Mainly, I don't do many table tennis ones, Dave. I think I did a serving one in the lockdown. I did a serving one where
it's a good one. Very good.
Thank you. It's just about the throw up, because again, I find when you go on coaching courses or people start coaching, they go far too advanced. They want to do a reverse or a pendulum, but then if you can't get somebody to throw the ball up and come down, you're wasting your time. And I just sometimes it needs a bit of a breaking down a little bit, made simplistic so we can follow it a bit easier. So so mainly I do a lot of multi-skills videos, fundamentals of movement, show some games ideas, fast feet, a lot on footwork. There's lots on footwork you can get off my YouTube channel.
And you can find, are they all on your YouTube channel? There's some that I make for schools, that I've got a link that I'll share with people if they ask, but most of them are public, so you might get some ideas. I've got a section of warm-ups, mainly for multi-skills, but you can use, especially with little kids, a lot of people sort of, we need to, it makes me laugh when they do a table tennis warm-up and it's all run around the hall. There's so many different things you can do. I do story time warm-ups with really young children, so there's lots of those that you'd find on the YouTube channel. So going to the moon, or doing a minefield. So it's fun, because we've got to engage them. We've got to keep them in the sport. If you don't keep them in the sport, they're going out and you don't get the better players. So one of the things that has clearly come over as we're almost running out of time, which has gone really quickly again, is that how much you've learned by working in a number of sports and transferring ideas you've learned from other coaches from different sports. So being multi-sports coach, do you think that makes you a better table tennis coach?
Yes, in a nutshell, yes. In a nutshell, it makes me more. You've got to be open to learning. And you, like I say, like I was saying earlier, you'll see a lot of things on YouTube and people go, "Oh, that's a great activity," but okay, so what are you going to do with it? Why are you going to use it? And it might be that's okay for table tennis, but that's not, or that's okay for rugby. So I definitely, the more you can be open as a coach and open to learning, and I think you need a philosophy. I think you need to sort of, because there's lots of different people out there giving different opinions. So, it is, you need that philosophy of where you want to take your coaching, but always, to me, always ask the why, always engage your players and have connections with them and understanding what they want. And if they're going to the top level, you've got to work on that mindset. You've got to get them confident and being who they are. We was talking Emma earlier. Emma is a very confident person now, you know, and I think table tennis has definitely helped with that.
Excellent, excellent. Amelia, any final questions? I don't think there's anything on the chat line, is there? Or...
No, I don't think anything's come through.
Come on, yeah.
Nobody wants to chat.
Yeah.
The question I was actually going to ask that I thought about before was, it's kind of similar to Dave's, but just in respect to like a player, like how important do you think it's important for players to play other sports when they're training table tennis? Because when you're playing international level, you kind of need to focus on table tennis, but is it important to try maintain?
Again, obviously, if you look at LTAD, long-term player development, they say table tennis is an early specialisation sport, and I've seen so many table tennis players burnt out. They just burnt out. They've just done the same repetition. So for me, it's a balance. But for me, definitely, they need to play other sports, especially early on, because they tend to, with table tennis, you know, who remembers an under-12 champion at the end of the day? You know, it's about, you know, being a senior national champion. And if the other sports are helping in terms of fitness, I've got players who were gymnasts they've got amazing core strength and balance, you know. So I think it's got to be the choice of the player. It's got to be the choice of the player. But I think the more sports, the better, especially early on. When they're ready to choose, I think that's the key. But you've probably got to say, okay, when you're choosing at 20, it's probably too late. So it is a harsh reality of a choice. And I know a lot of table tennis players who started young have made it, but there's also a lot who have burned out. You only have to look at some of the top players. You only have to look at injury. That's why I'm passionate about fundamentals and strength work. How many players have had hip operations, shoulder operations? So to me, that tells me there's something wrong with their fitness and the way they're training at an age where they could probably doing a lot of damage. So it's a balance for me, Amelia, and it's a difficult one to get right. But I think ultimately, as a team, a coach and a player, you need to sort of say, okay, where do you want to be? I want to be there. Right, this is what it takes. Are you prepared? Not me. Are you prepared to go what it takes? Let's get the parents in and talk to the parents. If you want to make it at top level, the parents are going to have a massive, massive impact. And as a coach, I believe you need to work with parents. You know, I was very lucky, like Dave says, with Phil and with Georgina's parents. They weren't table tennis background, and it's easier in some ways because they was very supportive. You know, but it is. But I do believe in playing other sports. Yeah, yes, but there obviously needs to be where you go down the road of specific. Definitely, you've got to, you know, to make it. But you know, I think probably we go a bit too early sometimes. Bit too early, especially if there's drop out. Personally, you know.
Is that both the chat questions taken, Amelia, or?
I think there was another one in chat, wasn't there, Amelia?
Yeah, there's quite a few, isn't there? There's one that's how do you build up independence? How do you build up independence within players when they're working with different coaches? Like they're kind of example club, international. So when you're moving between different bodies and clubs and things like that.
I think for me that obviously happens because I work with players that's actually, you know, working with clubs and doing other things. It's about relationships and connections, and also to me, never criticizing anybody, the other coach. He's saying, oh, I know when Georgina and Emma worked with, obviously they was both playing for England, so they was working with highly qualified coaches, but it was like, okay, tell me what you've done, tell me what's happened, okay, and then I would challenge them and say, okay, do you think that's right? What do you think? Rather than just going, oh, that's wrong, that's right, it's like getting them to take ownership again. So I think by the communication aspect of saying, okay, so like Georgina, when Georgina wanted to finish, it was like, she was meant to be playing Commonwealths, and she was strong. So there would have been Kelly and Joe and Georgina. And I coached Georgina since 10, and she came to me sort of really desperate, saying, I just don't want to go on anymore. I says, well, finish. It was simple to me, because if she'd have carried on, she wouldn't have enjoyed it. She'd have let the team down by not enjoying it, and she wouldn't have been committed. And it was like a weight had gone off her shoulder. So I think it's that communication without calling any other coach. We've tried to say, okay, let's try that out. Let's see what, because obviously they went to China. Let's see that out. Let's see what happens. But have your own philosophy. But they've definitely got to take ownership. But it's how you question it. It's like saying, okay, what you do with that? Okay, let's try it. Let's see what you think. Because there's so many children now having different coaches all over the place. They've got lots of coaches. So they've got to learn that this guy's not wrong and that guy's not right and this person's not right and that's not right. They've got to actually decipher all that information that's coming to them and keep it quite simple and go, this is what I believe. Because we don't...
And it's just...
Go on, Dave.
And it is possible that the information the coach is given is 100% right,
Correct.
but not for that player.
Correct.
Or what the player is doing is 100% right, but not quite for that coach. So the key is I've often said it's to have an open mind.
Definitely,
it's to have an open mind, and as the Chinese say, best proverb of all is we learn from each other. We learn from each other. Right. Definitely. Well, Gordon, you've run on an extra 10 minutes, but
I tend to talk.
Your passion has come through. I'm sure to all our listeners, your knowledge has been quite superb.
Thank you.
You brought in a couple of new ideas for our session, the wobble boards, the catching of the ball. This is all new stuff to us. I can see why you've done so well, Gordon. 4 national champions speak for itself. You obviously are giving the credit to them as players, but I think we've got to give you a lot of credit, Gordon.
That's very kind. Thank you.
You've been great for us tonight. And,
thank you. I enjoyed it, Dave. Thank you very much. Everybody,
go to Gordon's YouTube site and look at his videos. And if you've got questions, which we often get, Gordon, a week later, I'll forward them to you.
Thank you.
Amelia, before I wind up, any last questions for Gordon?
No last questions for me.
Happy birthday, Amelia.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's
18, I can remember it well. Oh, come on. Yeah. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, guys. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Well, Gordon, Amelia, thanks for being the co-host, because Mark's still sort of having a bit of a break, and Holly couldn't make it tonight. So you've been the co-host. Well done. Big responsibility. 18 on Wednesday. Have a lovely birthday. And to my special